All right, boys, we're going to start Allcraft, get into that, and then after that, we're going to do the after show with Rich. It's going to be good. Give me 1 second. Yo, what up?
But let's not talk about him being bald when he does join in.
Well, who? Who doing what?
Oh, shit, man.
What's this, dude?
Dude,
Am I getting roasted again?
No,
we were talking
what was
about.
happening.
Okay, that's good.
We're talking about somebody else. His name was
Preach.
Yeah, it was Preach. Okay, all right, that's good. You guys are talking about Preach. So,
Which we're gonna do plenty today on the show, actually.
So, welcome to the show, Esfand. It's been a little while. How you doing?
It has been. Dude, I'm excited. I'm
Have
happy.
you done any of the Shadowlands stuff?
A little bit. I got access to the thing too, so I started doing some of the stuff off stream, and then because I've been ranking, right? So I'm ranking in classic, and normally I take Thursdays off to rank, but I was like, well, instead of just taking today off and ranking, this is like a 1 day thing, so I'm gonna just turn on my stream and do this later instead. So yeah, I want to save some of it for stream so I could put some videos and stuff out, and it'll be fun. So I'm super excited.
We got plenty to talk about today. Esfand and I were talking about everything before everything got started. Everybody, welcome to another episode of Allcraft. We got Mario, Luigi, and Waluigi up in the house.
Wow.
And Yahoo! Let's go. I do want to say before we jump in to all of the action, I want to give a major shout out to our sponsor of Party. Party is designed to actually help us all find people to play World of Warcraft and other video games with, and also trying to get a lot of the toxicity out of group finding. It's been great to be working with them so far, and when you look at the three of us, and I remember it was about a year ago, a little bit over a year ago now that the 4th of July has passed, we put together a first tournament. We need partners for things like that, and Party is one of those partners that's also really started to help us look at some of those goals and help us start to do things like that. So definitely check out everything with Party. You can use our link that Tyrion is actually spamming in the chat right now. And with that, let's start to talk about some of the things that we saw today, because there like 40 dev interviews happened today.
I have a lot to talk about.
There's a lot.
So
We
where
definitely
do you want to start, Mitch?
What I had written down as the place to start, because it's something that I am the most interested in hearing everybody's opinions on, is the table missions.
I think they're fun. Yeah. I mean, yeah, Esfand, go ahead.
Well, I immediately, whenever I saw that, well, first off, let's start with table missions. They introduced them in WoD. Is that right? Am I remembering this right?
Yeah.
And I immediately thought, WoD to me was the Facebook expansion. You had Farmville garrisons, you had these little mini games, the mission tables, and it was like you just click the thing and then it does something. Like, okay, great. Like, this is a game for moms now. That's what I thought in WoD. But basically, I think what they did with these mission tables is they've decided, okay, we haven't really changed them much. We haven't changed them significantly over the years, and it's kind of boring. I think they are trying to kind of copy auto chess. That was immediately what I saw.
Yeah.
Whenever I looked at it, it just reminded me of auto chess, and auto chess was crazy popular about a year ago. So I think they were kind of trying to channel that a little bit.
Here's one thing that I do want to say, right? I think that I agree with you fully that, these have existed and they've kind of been half implemented. They never went all out on what the table missions actually felt like in the past. But when you look at what table missions are, and putting when I play WoW, I kind of want to play World of Warcraft, right? I'm not saying that, a Tortolan mission every now and then is something that I mind, right? Getting to do like that mini game where, a turtle made it to the water, sure, I'm fine with that. But when you have a lot of the different things with the table missions, it just feels like they are kind of creating a completely different mobile game that sometimes too many rewards are gated behind.
Okay, so I like it, and here's why. As long as it's a like kind of separate system. Now, what I don't want is what you guys are probably thinking of is like what we had in WoD, or even Legion, where you had to level up these followers, and if you didn't, you had certain bits of content that were locked off from you. So like you had to level up your followers to get your mission, to get your special piece of gear every other week from like Highmall or BRF, and then you had the shipyard that would do it from Hellfire Citadel. Then you had to level up the followers in order to do missions for the Class Order Hall and Legion. But in BFA now, like there's nothing really that you do with these mission tables. They don't really have any sort of impact or consequence or importance. It's just something, and I honestly think that they went too far with that. The mission table content is boring now.
Here was the weird thing. It felt like that, and then all of a sudden there were moments where your table was huge and you didn't have the tables in a place to go, like ready to go. And what I mean mostly is for what are they called? The essences. Well, World Vein, you needed to have your follower table set up, and it was a huge pressure point for.
I thought it was only for rank 4.
No, you needed to get rank 3. You needed to do your table mission.
Okay, that's
and it took like 3 weeks.
Ooh, that's I might have to agree with you on that. Yeah, that's I didn't see. I already had all my stuff leveled up, and I got that probably on
3 and
day
4.
1. 3 and 4. I thought it was only for rank. If it's only for rank 4, then I'm okay with it. If it's for rank 3 as well, I'm not. So yeah, I think the follower mission and like the way that they fight each other and you can watch it happening, I think that's kind of cool. And I'd like to see more content like that. Go ahead.
It's at least a lot more engaging than what it was, because I don't like this like the feeling of it being a chore. And like you said in the past, like where it's like, oh, if content is locked behind not having done that, I certainly felt that way in Legion, because I came so late. But whenever it's locked behind having to do these chores, you end up not only like not enjoying it, but you end up resenting it. So it's worse than it not being fun. It's now I hate it. So I think that it being something where it's more optional, and this is like, hey, this is something you can do on the side. This is content you can do, and you could advance whatever you want in the game. You can advance your account, character, whatever. I think from a game design perspective, I think it's a lot better to have stuff like that be like that.
I completely agree. I like having options and things that you can do, but not necessarily are forced to do. It's kind of like, I guess one example I could use is the Nazjatar reputation. In 8.2, whenever Nazjatar came out, you could gain a substantial amount of reputation just by going around and fighting all of the different pet battle monsters and like the special individual ones that you'd have to kill, and it made you level up your rep maybe like a day faster, or like 2 days faster. And I think that's a completely like reasonable and acceptable level for pet battles to have consequence, because it's just you can do it a little bit faster if you play this little mini game, but if you don't want to, it just doesn't matter. It takes an extra day. And that's all I want to see.
The mini game does need to be interesting, though, right? Which they are doing. In the past, it was actually the most boring thing ever, right? You just click the thing and it was done. Even just the little animations and setting up the configuration and making it feel a little bit like auto chess, I think is obviously a big step forward. I just feel like there needs to be a little bit more of a wow factor where you feel like you've done something extra. One of the things that in WoD, didn't it work that the way that if you had a follower, one of your followers you picked as your main follower and they followed you around, right?
Your bodyguard.
Yeah, you had like a bodyguard.
Like your Pokemon Yellow version Pikachu.
Yes,
exactly. Everywhere.
They followed you around, and different ones did different things. Now, I'm not saying that was perfect. I mean, obviously the system in WoD was really intrusive and got in the way of the game, but at least you felt like when you were out in the world that you had created something. And I'm kind of curious because I know they've added the abomination, like the Build-A-Bear abomination thing, for example.
Yeah.
For which Covenant Mountain? Maldraxxus. Yeah, Maldraxxus gets it. I wonder if there's any type of customization that you're going to have where it actually feels impactful that you do have these followers. One of the other things that I thought was cool about table missions in the past, I actually did it in Legion. I leveled a character on my phone, which I thought was funny. I'm not sure if I think it was good.
I think having a mobile component to the game, I know this is like a super unpopular opinion, but I believe it. I think having a mobile component to the game is not a bad thing. As long as it doesn't end up being like, oh, you have to log on to mobile in order to get like these things or whatever. But being able to do your table missions while you're on your phone, that's like such a minuscule, meaningless thing. I can't really see it as something that's bad. And if they want to make the follower missions like that, I can't really complain.
It should just never cost money, right?
No.
I think if there's a mobile component to the game where when I have to take a shit in the middle of raid, I can keep playing in some capacity, I think that that's cool. Especially if there is something like a chat integration, so you can keep talking to people when you take a poop. I think that'd be cool.
I think even from like a marketing perspective, right? The idea so many times is when you're trying to market something, and sure you already have the customer there, but you want to take your logo, your brand, whatever, and you want that to be in front of people's faces as much as possible, right? So when you're, dude, honestly, I call this an addiction to my phone or whatever. I can't go to the bathroom without my phone. I get like anxiety if I go to the bathroom without my phone because I'll get bored sitting there.
You know what you do, right? You just have to read the ingredients for the shampoo.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea. Actually,
that's what I have to do whenever I forget my phone.
Yeah, maybe I should try that next time I forget my phone. But if I do have my phone, right, then I'm on Twitter or whatever else, and if I'm playing WoW and I'm like, well, frick, I got to check my deal. I don't know. I think it's like if it's like an optional thing on the side and it's not something that's required or there's it's not going to cost you money or whatever, then hey, at least I'm not going to be bored while taking a dump. So.
There you go, dude. Yeah, I consider it an overall positive. I'm actually really curious. You know what? One thing I'm really curious about is did you guys watch the dev update? Everybody did, right?
Yes.
So the towers that you're supposed to like channel anima into and then unlock certain things with those towers. Rich, did you see this?
It's literally the PoE garden mixed with garrisons.
Well, Blizzard is doing what they do best. They're stealing somebody else's good idea, making it slightly better, or modifying it to their game, and then passing it off as their own.
I swear, that's what I want Blizzard to do. Like Blizzard was never good at being super creative. They were good at polish. They would take something that already existed and they would make the best version of it. That's what World of Warcraft started out as. That's when it was a good game. The second that they started thinking was when it all went down.
Yeah, don't think for yourself.
Stop coming up with new ideas. Well, just make shit that's already good.
Isn't Torghast? Isn't there something in Final Fantasy 14 that's very similar to Torghast?
Tower of God or something like that?
Yeah, something like that. Some kind of
Tower of God. There's some stuff in Guild Wars that people have talked about, and you can see the clear influences from different games, different roguelikes like Slay the Spire. You can see clear influence from a bunch of those different things, and that's good. I think that's what I think that the only way that AAA companies continue to serve a large audience is if they use all their resource to just do things that other people couldn't do within the genre, even though they had the idea. Like an indie company can take risks and they can service a very small part of a community and they can be targeted. They can say, okay, there are like 10 players out there that love to do this. We're going to do it perfectly. It's then the AAA's job to just polish that idea, make it have more appeal, throw more sparkles and glitz on it, make it a less campy system. If AAA doesn't do that, AAA fails and only indie will exist in the future, in my opinion. Distribution's just changed a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that really anytime you can, if you want to make a good game, you got to come to terms with somebody else is going to have a good idea. And if they have a good idea, then you either got to adapt and find a way to make something better, or you got to find a way to adapt and take what they do and make it better. Yeah, that's your two options, right? Otherwise, you're going to lose people. And I mean, they have lost people, right? So they're doing the things they need to get it back.
I think the thing that WoW suffered from, though, as well, was there were a lot of mentalities where it was like, this was tried in another MMORPG and it failed. Therefore, we should not do it in WoW because we already saw it fail somewhere else. When there are so many factors that make other MMORPGs fail, mostly just the fact that WoW exists. Like there are a lot of good things in other MMORPGs, even if that MMO sucks, because there are plenty of
every
MMOs
game does at least like one or two things right, and then it can do 50 other things wrong. It's like Black Desert, for example. Black Desert was a dog shit game in like 50,000 ways, but there are a few things that it did really, really well, and making combat feel visceral and exciting, etc. was one thing that it did well. Buying the magic underwear to get +1 luck, not as much. But, you know,
that's
it's a
the
give
only
and
thing I
take.
know about BDO because you talk about it all the time.
Well, it's the best example. Okay, do you want me to talk about the fact that I spent fucking 3 weeks farming the same mobs that were, you know, 1 level down from being gray to not giving me any experience for multiple days in order to get 54 before a certain patch came out? No, I don't think you do. It was a very, very bad time. There are plenty of bad things about the game, but it did do a number of things that were good. So I'm really curious to see how they're going to do these towers.
Asmon hit me up like when he was playing BDO one time. He was like, "Dude, I have more underwear in this game than I do in real life, dude." I was like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah. Well, I had 1.
Yeah, 1 is better than 0.
Yeah.
I've never played BDO. That's one of the ones I didn't play. But like when I played ESO, I think World of Warcraft overall is a better game than ESO. I think that it's a more complete game in a lot of ways. But I had a lot of fun with ESO, and there were things in ESO where I was like, I thought that the gear in ESO I didn't really like the gearing system that much, but there was stuff that I had fun with, and you can look at that, and just because the game isn't as popular as World of Warcraft doesn't mean that there aren't a few things that I would like to see WoW potentially steal. For the most part, though, ESO does feel like a completely different game. That's why I don't bring it up too often in examples. But by all means, steal shit from PoE instead of stealing shit from Diablo, and take stuff.
Yeah,
from,
please don't steal anything else from Diablo, Blizzard. Please stop doing that.
I've played this season, man, and McConnell and I actually played together for a little bit, and I was playing with a friend, and I still couldn't make myself have fun with it. I really think after playing PoE, it's tough to play that game.
Well, what about, I mean, Esfand, obviously, you've probably had the alpha for a while. You've done Torghast, right?
I was waiting to do Torghast until the Paladin stuff came in, and then I just got swamped with like guild stuff, and
it is really, really good. And I think Torghast is going to be one of those things. You know how people, like, you remember back in BC and shit where people would play WoW for Arena. Like, that's why they played WoW. And I hope that Torghast actually goes into being the same thing. And I'm really excited for that. Like, all the changes they've made. And it's funny for me because I haven't played Torghast for a long time. And now playing it again, it's like almost a completely different experience. And it's more fun now. Much. Say what?
It changed that much already.
Yeah. I mean, well,
it had like 20 minutes where it was terrible too, and they instantly changed it, which was the best feeling ever. Yeah.
I watched a little bit of Quinn do it. I watched some of Preach do Torghast. I don't think I got to watch you do it because I was asleep, because my sleep schedule is terrible now. But yeah, that's how it goes. But no, I got a chance to watch it, even though I didn't get to play directly at the beginning. So I'm excited. I mean, I really have high hope for Shadowlands, to be honest. Like, I think it's going to be good for the players. I think it's going to be good for stream content. And then I think the combination of that plus Classic, like, people are they're not gonna have any time to have free time.
I made a tweet about this, man. I was like, it's a good time to be a WoW player right now.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got Shadowlands coming out. The expansion looks genuinely promising, and it's not like I'm paid to say that. And you know,
hey, I'm not.
You're certainly not either, are you?
I think some of it looks pretty good.
Yeah. There you go. Hey, Blizzard, do you hear that? So no, I know. I think it actually looks really good. And then you've got TBC coming off. I got a question. How do the people obviously you're talking with your Classic Guild all the time. What's their read on Shadowlands whenever they talk about it? I'm sure they bring it up.
I think I'm gonna make a guild in because whenever I was playing retail, I was in your guild, but like just casually, right? Just like hanging out.
You make.
I think I'm gonna make a retail guild, and we're not gonna play it like super serious, but there's enough people in my guild who want to get a raid team together, maybe 2 raid teams, and just go have some fun with Shadowlands. And I mean, we'll be raiding Classic, and then we'll flip, and we'll probably have like a raid night on retail too, and just do fun stuff, right? Because I think things are going to change. Like right now, like I said, I'm ranking, so I have like ranker brain, and my room is a mess more than usual, actually. So it's been bad lately, but whenever everything's flipped.
It's not. I can tell. Like last time I went over to Asfand's house, or whenever you're living at the old house, and I had to like tiptoe. There was like individual little spots that I had to walk in. It's like, imagine like a dungeon or something like that you have to do, and there's like certain okay spots, and then everywhere else is lava.
I remember
I had to clean up for the show.
God.
Okay, I wanted to clean up for the show. I'm gonna come clean right now and just be completely honest.
I stand corrected.
I'll never forget the first time we went over to Esfand's place, and I was like, and there was no furniture.
Subway? Yeah.
It was just there were just like wrappers and wires everywhere, and no furniture. And I was like, "Oh, dude, did you like just move in?" And he's like, "No, I've been here for a few months." I was like, "Where do you sleep?"
Yeah,
like,
the air mattress.
Yeah. I didn't have a bed. I had an air mattress that I slept on, and yeah.
Dude,
So.
but hey, the show looked good, so everything worked.
That's what
That's all that
matters,
matters
right?
to me.
That's really all that matters.
The only thing that matters to me is what is right here. Okay, outside of this frame, it's look. I don't even care anymore.
That's the way I feel. I mean, my whole other room is like a complete mess, but like this exact frame is not as bad as the other part, at least. So yeah, I understand that.
I took a few days
I could probably
off
do myself
from,
a favor here, actually.
I took a few days off from playing retail, and my room's completely clean. I can bench 420 pounds now. I can squat like you know, like
700.
Give or take.
Just I don't count. You know, I just put up plates. You know, that's like what I do now.
That makes sense.
Making a lot of new friends.
Numbers get so high, who's counting?
Some of them are girls, you know. No big deal. But yeah, ultimately, I want to put a bow on the auto battle mission table. Just kind of get our opinion on it, because there are a lot of systems coming out. When you talk about Shadowlands, I don't think we've ever seen so many systems get released at once. A lot of the new systems are tied to covenants, which could be, I think that maybe that's where a lot of the concern is. But table missions have existed for a while. This is a refinement of a system, not an addition of a new system. It seems like we all agree that this is maybe a step in the right direction. But Asmon, starting with you, what do you really want to see the rewards be? Because you started to talk about that already.
From
what
the
do you
auto
want to see
battler?
the rewards be from the auto battler? Yeah.
I don't know, maybe a few cosmetic rewards, maybe a cool mount if you get all your characters up to a max level that comes out like, I don't know, once every patch or something like that. Few pets, a transmog set maybe for like an archaeology expedition or something similar to that, and maybe give people like maybe bind on account weapons, something cool like that, reintegrate some of the old items back into the game that way, and maybe some gold in terms of like, you know, more contemporary stuff, maybe a little bit of reputation, like 250 rep. I don't think that really is going to break the bank, and it still creates a little incentive for people to go the extra mile and play it if they want to, but if they don't, it's just like 2 world quests. So it's kind of, you know, it's 1/2 dozen to the other, you know, 6/2 dozen to the other.
Anything in particular you want to see, Esfand?
For what exactly in Shadowlands?
No, I'm saying the rewards for the table missions.
Oh, rewards for table missions?
Yeah. Is there anything that you want to see as a reward?
I think that I think that's hard to say, right? Because I think that gold and some of these other things that are more simple in what you've been getting so far is it seems trivial to me in retail. I feel like gold is not like what is like the one thing that you can think of that you want gold for in BFA? It's a long boy, right? So I think that
buying corrupted gear.
if they made gold more valuable, with whatever they can think of, right? It could be another mount, it could be other stuff. I think gold would be something that's simple and nice. But anything like really cool and specific. Maybe some kind of appearance or something like that. Like some
you
like
actually touched on what my idea was, so I'm kind of curious about how you feel about it, because I also feel the same way about gold, and I've always thought that professions are really the potential way to stimulate the economy and actually make the economy feel fun again and feel real, kind of like it did in Classic WoW, right? I think a lot of people agree the Classic WoW economy is one of the things that remain strong about the title to this day, even 15 years later. Yeah. When I look at the missions, and I'm sure that people at Blizzard would have data on this if there's a big overlap between the people who still engage with professions a whole bunch. I would love if the auto battler, if the table missions, whatever you want to call it, if they really focused on crafting and getting you more stuff to actually craft flasks, food, whatever your actual profession is, having it geared towards that. So
kind of like how we had the garrison with the garrison, the mine and the garden, but instead of that, you get those same resources through the auto battler.
But just a phone
table.
Game. Yeah, if they're gonna put it in the game, just don't actually take people away from the game when they would be playing it, right? Like with the garrisons, think about the amount of time it actually took. Like you had to do everything in your garrison.
My mom was like, she was doing like 8 garrisons. I'm not even kidding you, dude. And she would go in that mine and mine out ore. And I remember like I asked her because I needed some ore to make a transmog like belt or something. And I need Blackrock ore, mommy. I don't have enough. I don't want to spend my money. And she's like, okay, how much do you need? And I'm like, I don't know, 500. Can you afford that? And she just sends me like 3,000. And she's like, okay, well, send me back whatever you don't need. I needed to get rid of this anyway.
Mom, like, you with the mommy, dude. Unbelievable. Yeah. You made it with the mommy to try to get ore.
Yeah, fuck it. I want to make a transmog belt, Mom. I gotta do this. This stream's gonna make fun of me if I don't have this belt. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of really good things coming out of Shadowlands. Like, and that's one thing that, like, I feel almost everybody is pretty much saying. I mean, there's obviously going to be some people that are going to hate anything Blizzard does. But for the overall majority of people, I think that there are a lot of guys out there that are playing, and just people that are playing, and they see what's coming out in Shadowlands, and they're pretty excited. It actually seems good.
Which I think always happens for the most part, right? There's always going to be like a lot of hype around any new expansion coming out. But you said a lot of guys. That does make me want to bring up one thing that just heard. I'm not even sure if it's true. I heard it on your stream. I think McConnell was the one who actually said it. Are you actually going to be able to change your gender now at the barbershop?
Yeah. Yeah, they're letting you change your gender at the barbershop. I'm actually surprised they're doing that because it used to be a like a thing that you'd pay for, but I guess they probably weren't having a lot of people pay for it. Like, some people are saying it was like an SJW thing. Like, I don't really think anybody cares. Like, that's really the fact is, like, with faction transfers and server transfers, for example, because people compared it to that, I think that it's different because those actually affect the community and like the economy and like this like social structure of the game to an extent. But if you want to be a dude one day and a girl the next, who gives a fuck? Like, I don't think it matters one way or another.
I think like a lot of people react to it like strongly because it's shocking because you've never been able to do it before in the game. Like, you know, like if you were going to be a weird boy, you were a weird boy, for example. If you were going to be like, it was a part of your character's identity that you couldn't switch that much. I like it a lot because I don't think that there needs to be a paywall for it.
Yeah.
Which I think is a strength. I mean, obviously it's something that didn't exist in Classic. How do you feel about it, Esfand?
I like it too, actually, because I think about this all the time. And the thing that the thing that I'm most attracted to is myself. And if there's one thing that would be more attractive to me is myself as a girl. So I don't know, I might switch for like 15-20 minutes and then switch back, and you know, every few days.
I saw the Tifa cosplay, brother. I can't wait to be roommates.
Yeah, I mean, it's I think it's good. I mean, like, and that's really what it is. I mean, I like the idea of like there being a certain amount of money that you have to pay for like faction and like server transfers, because I think it's like a barrier for people to not just do it all the time. If it was up to me, and I've said this before on my stream, I would have never allowed faction transfers. I don't think that's been good for the game. But overall, like where we're at now, like, yeah, sure, if they want to do a gender change, who cares?
Yeah. I was saying this even with the mechanomes. I thought that the mechanomes were the lamest thing ever when they were first put in the game. I was like, man, diaper gang, not for me. I was anti diaper gnome. And then Roderin in your transmog competition pulled out the sickest transmog ever with he looked like one of the League of Legends characters.
Yeah, but let's not pretend, okay? Mechanomes still look fucking stupid, okay? Like, yeah, Roderin came out with a really, really good transmog. He's a gnome warlock. And yeah, it was awesome. But 95% of the other Mechanome transmogs suck. So
yeah, but look at real life. Every now and then, I put on a shirt that looks pretty stupid, but it's like, oh man, that's fun. It's summer, for example. You know, you're having a good time.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like with Mechanomes, every now and then, you kind of want to look a little bit dumb and have fun in the game. You know, sometimes people transmog their weapons to look like fish. I think that Mechanome, instead of it being a full-on race that you picked in the game, I'd be much more excited if those were customizations that you could have just added to gnomes, for example, right? Like I do think being able to have more control over how your character looks more frequently isn't necessarily a bad thing for the game, especially when transmog already exists.
Yeah, it's not really that big of a deal. I'm glad they made that change, and there's a few other things too. I was honestly more surprised by it because Blizzard was opting to not make money from something. They added another store mount today. Yeah. You guys see that?
Oh, I saw it.
Yeah. Yep. And so, fucking bullshit game, man. Well, I mean, the thing is, like, this time around, I think they did this shit on purpose. I think they asked me to be in this alpha, like this special server, to distract me. So they think that they get that store mount fucking under my nose, quiet. Man. They wouldn't see it. Yeah, they're like, what? Oh, there you go.
The YouTube video was unlisted.
Yeah.
It was, dude. I actually, usually I don't buy the conspiracies, but this time I actually.
Yeah, they're like, here, we'll distract Asmongold, put out another storm mount. He's not even gonna notice.
Good move.
I think that, like, I used to not care so much, and I think that there was like I think there's a legitimate argument you could make about, like, well, if you get a free mount for paying for something you're already gonna pay for, then great, why not, right? I think that's a fair argument, but the thing that I've kind of, and it's a conspiracy thing, I get it, but time and time again, Blizzard has shown that, hey, we coincidentally have things on a cycle that goes just slightly longer than the cost of one subscription. So then you have to sub for 2 months to, like, what's the thing?
Corruption vendor.
Dude, it's 6 months.
Corruption vendor right now?
Yeah, it's 6 months, dude. Like, it's so obvious. Like, they just want people to stay subbed while the game's still bad.
They did this shit back in Cataclysm. Like, you guys might have forgotten this. They did, like, the annual sub, and if you did your annual sub for WoW, you got a free Diablo 3, because they knew the game was going to be dog shit for the next year. So they just thought to themselves, like, really early on in Dragon Soul, they're like, let's just lock these fuckers into a whole year, and that way it doesn't matter if they complain, because they're paying us money anyway. And you got the fucking, you got Tyrael's Charger with it too, and Diablo 3. And so the first thing I said, I'm like, you know what? My dad doesn't need this money. I'm going to be playing the game for the next year. I just signed my dad up for my annual sub, and I got my mount. And so they've been doing this for a long time.
I mean, I remember the first time that they actually added the Celestial Steed, or whatever it was actually called, and I was actually excited I remember waiting in the virtual line. I don't know if you guys remember how hard it was to actually get that storm mount.
No, because I didn't buy it.
My mom was standing there next to me, and she goes, "Do you really need this, Richard? Do you really need this, Richard?" I was like, "I need them. Everybody's gonna have it." And we waited in the virtual line, and I was so excited. And then over time, you start to realize what's happening.
Yeah.
You start to realize what's happening. And this one in particular, like, when you looked at the first storm mount, it seemed like it probably was something that was going to drop off of Algalon.
Yeah.
You look at this one, and it's just so clear that was something that was going to drop out of Mechagon, and then they have the video as well. That's
and it's
straight up
Mechagon.
what a hyped up Mechagon.
It's like, wow, dude, what quest can I do to get this? Is there an achievement? Is there a rare spawn I need to kill? Oh no! And then you know what my favorite thing about this whole thing is, right? Is that people told me it's free. It's $77.
Oh yeah, I saw them. They were typing in your chat. They were going, bah,
it's free.
Bah,
yeah.
bah.
I don't know, man. Like, at this point, like, the storm mounts, I'm gonna complain and get pissed off about every single one of them. But I think they're not doing them quite as often now, and it is what it is. I mean, I'm still gonna get mad though. Every single time.
When was the last storm mount?
I think they've added 3 or 4 total in BFA.
But how many months ago was the last 6-month storm out?
Oh fuck, dude, probably 6 months ago.
Yeah,
I don't know.
They did a lot in this expansion, because I think that the free mentality was the last one the Dreadwake. Is that the last 6 months?
I think there was another one after the Silverian Dreamer.
Rat?
I remember.
The Silverian Dreamer wasn't a 6 month though, was it? I thought that was just
it was.
Oh,
it was, and I refused to redeem it.
I thought Squeaker the Rat was.
I would not redeem the mount.
Okay, yeah, you didn't have the Silverian Dreamer though because of 6 months. I sent it to you. I sent it to you like 3 times.
No, I have the 6 months. I have 6 month recurring all the time, or some kind of.
Yeah, but I think Squeaker the Rat. I could be wrong. I think Squeaker the Rat was the 6 month one.
Who the fuck knows, man?
Which is
I don't have
actually
either
funny.
one of them.
He's cool, dude. It's like riding around on Quinn. They should have
Yeah.
added voice lines to it. Get off me! What the heck? Pussy my ass! That'd be great, dude. Like all those little wings.
Well, I guess
like that,
one
bro.
thing I'm curious, right? Asmon, you play a lot of Classic, obviously. What's one thing besides Torghast that you're excited for the most in Shadowlands?
I mean, arenas. I don't know what happened recently. Maybe it's because I've been like hanging out with Mitch a little bit. I've gotten this weird arena itch coming back, and I'm like, dude, that's the big thing that I miss about I guess post Classic that Classic doesn't have is there's the PvP and stuff is fun for me. I very much enjoy doing ABs and battlegrounds and stuff like that. But having a like ladder with a rating and having like your little team, I loved retail arenas, right? And I think right now it's kind of a mess with corruption and all that. And Mitch has been trying to get me to play with him, and I might a little bit before, like in pre-patch or whatever. Mitch and I might do some arenas together. But that's the big thing for me is I'm just excited for playing arenas come Shadowlands and also them fixing all the corruption problems.
So they
hopefully.
announced. Go ahead.
No, I may have missed. So you said Mitch gave you the itch?
Yeah, which I mean is probably not the first time.
Yeah. This roommate situation is gonna get weird real quick, dude.
Man, dude, that's a wild house you guys got set up here. Okay. Oh my god. Well,
The law, baby.
Yeah.
The law.
I think that honestly, like, I think Arena is going to be better in Shadowlands than it is now. And it's like every expansion, I think we said this last time you were on, even as fun we talked about this. It's like every expansion we say to ourselves, this is the worst Arena's ever been. It can't get worse than this. And like now we're at the point where like I don't know if you watched the Rextroy video. This dude stacked up like 18 fucking or 27 exactly infinite stars. So he had rank 3 infinite stars on every single thing that he had, and he would just dumpster. He'd one shot people, and he got up to 2,500. 24 is glad. Yeah,
and that's not even a bug, right? Like that wasn't even
that's the way the game's supposed to work.
Working as intended.
Yeah. It's wild. But I mean, like, so they had an interview today and they said they're not going to have a PvP specific stat because we saw data mined earlier that there might be something like PvP power, there might be something resilience, but they're not going to have that. I don't know how I feel about that.
Oh,
I'm concerned. What?
Yeah, no, I was saying, like, how do you feel about that?
I don't know. Like, I mean, because you have like the two different like schools of thought. I like being able to PvP to get really good PvE gear. I like the idea of somebody being an accomplished raider being able to go in and compete in PvP because they have good raiding gear. And I also conversely like the idea of an accomplished PvPer, like a gladiator or something like that, being able to go into a raid and be able to play well in that raid because they have really good gear. And like having that overlap, I think is healthy for the game because it encourages crossplay. And in all the best points in time in the game, at least in my mind, everybody, people are saying no in chat. I get that. Wasn't Burning Crusade? Wasn't Burning Crusade this terrible game? Wasn't Wrath of the Lich King the thing that we all hold in such high esteem, and Cataclysm we hold in such high esteem?
Hey, remember when you didn't need to get gear for PvP, and then everybody instantly cried to have gear back?
Yeah,
I feel like
that's
the actual memory. It's so easy to forget everything that's historically happened with PvP, but in Legion we had stat templates and every single person can play.
Theoretically, people want a fair fight until they suck, and then they want to be able to outgear the other guy.
It's an MMORPG. Look, I used to actually host arenas, and
really?
I used to host the Arena World Championship.
Really? That's kind of crazy.
Yeah. And one of the things that I'll always say about esports is that the game should not be balanced around the esport. The format should do the balancing to make it a fair fight. The game should not be ruined because of the esport. That goes for dungeons, that goes for arena, that goes for every single aspect of the game, because it is very easy to focus on your esport and just destroy your entire IP. Dude. It's happened not only in World of Warcraft.
I'm worried about that happening with dungeons, man. Go ahead, have fun.
I'm worried with Torghast too.
I was gonna say, like, I have talked about exactly what you're saying, Rich, for literally for years. To me, there was like a point in time where there was like a definitive drop in how PvP and just how the game worked, the balance of the game between PvP and PvE, and what people enjoyed. Whenever MLG was a big thing, and then all of a sudden like WoW was trying to become an esport, and everything was like balanced around trying to make this game an esport. Sure, some good things came out of it, like and I didn't play the season, but was it season 9 of Wrath that everybody says was like the best arena season ever?
Season 8 of Wrath. Season 8 and 7, I think, were some of the best. Season 9 was Cataclysm, and that was also good.
Right, so season 8 of Wrath.
Fun story about MLG, by the way. I used to work there.
Did you get fired from there too?
Yeah, but once Blizzard owned it,
sorry, that's fine. Keep going.
Dude.
Yeah,
that worked. But yeah, no, Burning Crusade was the exact same thing, right? People taking PvE gear and using it in PvP, people taking PvP gear and using it in PvE, whether that was like taking advantage of set bonuses or whatever else. I don't like PvP stats. I do not like resilience, or I didn't like resilience back then. I don't like PvP power. I don't like any of that. I think that when they make PvP gear and PvE gear, it should be about how the itemization points are allocated. A lot of how itemization, just gearing in WoW works nowadays, it's like hyper optimized, right? You have an item level, and because you have this much item level, you have this much stamina, and then this much strength, intellect, agility, whatever it is, right? And then you have the secondary stats that are a lot of times random, right? I don't like that. I like that if I get a piece of gear in PvP, maybe it has more stamina, maybe it has more agility, and because I have more agility, I have more dodge, or maybe like the green stats that it has, the secondary stats that it has are more like PvP oriented. But I don't really like I don't really like resilience. I don't like PvP power. I don't like having these PvP specific stats, and then I can't use the gear to, like, playing the game one way doesn't make me better at playing the game the other way. Where I think if you're playing an MMORPG, like you said, Rich, I want to play the whole game. The best that I can possibly be should be by doing everything I possibly can.
And this is a vision that's shared by Blizzard. They've even said this, that in order, if you want to be just a PvPer, you can be just a PvPer. But there might be a couple of things that you can get out of a Mythic Plus or out of a raid or out of some other type of content that could make you a little bit stronger. And I actually think...
I agree with Chad on that.
That's how it should be.
You can't? Can't what?
You can't do that right now. Like, it's impossible to do that right now.
Well, I think they should have it. Well, that's why they're adding back vendors. And I'm really excited about having vendors and actually having gear sets. That's one thing I'm really concerned about, though, is in Burning Crusade, they just kind of let it happen. And if you guys remember back in BC, whenever it came out, if you were in a raiding guild, you would save up your arena points, and you would spend your arena points after, like, Karazhan or after SSC. And if, like, okay, well, the legs didn't drop from, whichever boss dropped them, like Fathom or Carathis or something like that. Well, if they didn't drop, well, okay, that's fine. I'll just go and, buy my thing anyway, and I'll buy it from the arena vendor, and I have like kind of the ghetto version of the tier 5 legs or tier 4 legs or whatever they are. And I actually really like that system. I thought that was good, but it's going to be really hard for Blizzard to balance it, considering how much loot is in the game, which is something they're also trying to minimize, but it's going to be hard to do.
Yeah, that actually leads into what I was going to jump back to too, because as Esfand, you brought up like 30 good points in the last thing you said, and you talk about the overabundance of loot. I think that's what Asmon just said. The overabundance of loot, huge problem. It's like that is a very big problem in the game. But also, you talked about what particularly interested me was when you started to talk about the different ways that gear is itemized now, because I think that some of that itemization should definitely be cleaned up, even just with versatility, right? Like, I think versatility is the least fun stat ever. And this is like the one time, folks, that I'll ask you a question seriously without a poll and want to see what you say, because I feel like everybody's going to agree on this. Does anybody get excited when they get versatility on their gear? Even if it is the upgrade, does anybody enjoy getting versatility on their gear?
I do.
It's kind of a boring stat for me.
I do.
You actually have fun with it.
So I have so much versatility now. So many sockets on my gear. So many corruptions to increase versatility. So much versatility on damage taken that I can't die. And so if I get versatility, more versatility, it's funny for me. I don't need to do damage because I'm going to win anyway. Like, I just did arenas, and I would RP walk at people, and they'd just be pumping damage into me, and it wouldn't do a fucking thing because I had 78% verse. It was awesome. So, like, yeah, it's stupid. It's the game, by the way, I want to say one thing. It shouldn't work that way. It should not work that way. But it does. And until they get rid of it, I'm going to do it.
Well, go back to Classic though, for example, right? I mean, and I don't think Classic was perfect by any means.
No,
I think
not at all.
Yeah, the idea of having a chase piece that you want in all the different aspects of the game, I think that's awesome. It's like, man, I really want this trinket in raid. Man, dungeons, there's an overarching meta reward where there's a really strong weapon that I get maybe for PvP. PvP is a PvE or has its chase rewards as well. Like, I like that a lot, and then you're able to get 90% of the work done playing the variant of the game that you like the most. But there were some interesting things in Classic gear-wise where, you know, you're raiding MC, and even your tier set, you're like, oh yeah, I'm a mage. I do not want the chest for raid, but I really do want it for PvP right now. And there's that dynamic of, oh, I'm still getting PvP gear as I'm raiding. And there are specific pieces, even in dungeons, different dungeon sets that are decent for PvP or decent for farming.
Well, you've got things like Toep, right? Talisman of Ephemeral Power. And it's like everybody wants that as a caster. Zandora, Hero Charm. These types of things are like huge chase pieces in Classic WoW. And that's the kind of interplay that I like seeing. I don't like seeing a huge amount of interplay between like PvE and PvP, but I think a certain amount of it is healthy for the game. I know there are some people who like playing it where everybody's exactly the same and perfectly equal. And, you know, maybe they could do like a tournament realm for that to be the case. But WoW is an MMO, and I do think that there should be a certain level of disparity between two players, you know, based off of how much time they invest in everything. And right now, the problem with BFA, at least, is that disparity is too much. Because, you know, you multiply corruptions on top of essences, on top of, you know, sockets on gear, and on top of cloak level, on top of corruption resistance, and you're just having this massive difference in damage. Like, Esfand, what level is your cloak?
I couldn't even tell you, like level 3 or something. It's like, yeah.
There it is.
I did the beginning of 8.3 stuff. I did the cloak. It was fun. I just didn't have time with it. I just got overwhelmed with my guild stuff, you know.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. I mean, like, that's one thing I'm worried about with Shadowlands. I'm hoping they're not going to do too many of these systems. Now, what they said yesterday is a lot of the systems, and this is something I'm hoping for, a lot of these systems are going to be kind of contained within a covenant, and hopefully they'll be account-wide in terms of, like, meta progression systems. And that's one thing I think BFA really did wrong. Is I enjoy the meta progression systems at max level. I think they're good, but having to do them on every single character is unreasonable. Like now, at the end of an expansion, like I'm sure you guys probably did the same shit back in the day, is you'd level up another character.
Yeah, and get it sick gear, and then sometimes you would meet
get it ready
people.
For the next expansion.
Yeah, well, you'd get ready for the next expansion in ways that you couldn't even predict. Whether it was meeting new people that you were going to play with, whether it was maybe even deciding that you wanted to change the class that you're playing. Let's say you played a paladin for 10 years, and then all of a sudden you try a warlock, and then you go, wait, this is actually what I want to play right now. It's a change of pace. Maybe you end up with a new main. You never know what's going to happen. That's the reason why it was so much fun. And then when pre-patch hits, you get to try out the new stuff there as well. It's usually when you get to beat the game and thoroughly enjoy it. The thing right now is with all of these systems, doing them multiple times is never fun, even if they're good the first time. When you look at, you're going to need to progress a zone to give it zone juice now. You're going to need to progress your covenant. You're going to need to progress your Soulbinds. You're going to need to be in Torghast to get your legendary items. You're going to need to you're going to need to progress. What else are you going to need to progress? There's the dude, what's that other thing called? I don't even remember what it's called.
Anima power.
But what's the one system that they showed where it has the little circle in the middle that was like half full on the graphic? And then there were like the three little dots around it.
That. Like, I don't remember.
I don't even know what that system is yet.
It's
fully.
like they have, like, there's, so one thing I really like, Esfand, did you see the Soulbind system?
A little bit. Yeah, I looked at that.
What do you think of that? It's kind of like an old talent tree.
Yeah, I mean, I think I feel like they're adding so many like so many new systems in the game at once, and they're like different types of secondary progression systems that I'm kind of worried that it's gonna like spin out of control and be like impossible to balance.
That's what I'm kind of worried about too. And that's one thing, like I really like the idea of secondary progression systems, and like this is maybe like a neckbeard take or something, but I like doing these. But it's just that if they don't have them balanced, and I did a poll with my chat yesterday, and I asked them, what covenant are you going to pick? And instead of 4 choices, I gave 5. And the 5th choice was whatever the covenant that the people that do the most damage tell me to go. Yeah. And you know what? Over 50% went with number fucking 5. Yeah. That is not a good decision, because that takes a fun, aesthetic, RP, gameplay, role-playing, like fucking a real like character decision, and it just relegates it to a simulation.
Yep.
That sucks.
And just to add to that, it's this is a point that's come up before, and this is more like of a general gameplay topic, right? And it spans like the scope of this discussion is a lot more than just WoW, right? Or even MMORPGs, but metagaming. Yeah, the introduction of a specific meta into any game, or into every game really, and it's like, this is the best way to do this, or like you have to play this game this way because it means you'll do this much damage, whatever. It takes the life out of the game. And I see so many people burn out from playing games because they're playing the game in a way that may or may not be giving them the most amount of overall fun, because what they think is the most amount of fun they're going to have is by doing, being the highest performing player in whatever way. And then whenever they inevitably don't always attain that, then they end up getting burned out and they feel like their time is wasted and they end up quitting and losing it.
One thing
I've seen so many people, even in Classic
is not even in Classic right now. Classic is one of the worst offenders of this.
It's insane. I've never seen anything like it on like in my entire experience of playing WoW.
Right? Like, why would you play with somebody who's a human priest whenever they could play as a dwarf priest and have an extra ability that makes them better? There's no reason to do that. So everybody goes into the game knowing that. Like, everybody knows that dwarves are better than humans, basically, as being priests. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, I'm gonna let you finish. I think we're done.
Well, yeah, they're just better. Overall, they're just better. And so if you have somebody that takes a choice and willingly handicaps themselves, of course you're going to be frustrated about that. And most people that do that probably might not be as good as the people who don't.
Well, and that's not, for example, like the dwarf priest example.
Yeah.
There's so much. I think part of the problem is honestly content creators. I think a lot of times you can make the big, hot take, outlandish statement. Check out my clickbait YouTube title. You have to play this game. The one trick to make you a god at vanilla WoW.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's just not true. I think it's intellectually dishonest, right? Because they say the big thing to make you feel like you have to play the game this way. Whereas, for example, using your dwarf priest example, human priests are actually higher performing by the time you get into Nax. Now, it's for a smaller portion of time. At the very beginning, the fear ward is really important because Onyxia is in the first raid tier, and you have to deal with fears and this and that. But as time goes on, it becomes a lot less of an issue. And then having that spirit bonus for a priest as a human is actually you're going to perform higher.
Oh yeah.
But people don't realize this because of the big clickbait stuff.
Well, also people don't like to think. And it's a lot easier to hear something one time and then stick to it forever instead of actually actively thinking. I mean, even look during this expansion, look during BFA, the amount of times where, during 8.1, something was bad and a content creator actively comes out and says like, okay, this is the worst spec in the game right now. Something needs to change. And then it gets changed and it actually performs well. But you still see people saying, oh, I would never bring this into my raid group ever. Like, this is just an underperforming spec. And it's like, have you played the game? Like, have you seen the damage that they're actually doing? But it's a lot easier to just only hear one thing and stick to it the entire expansion.
I think it's just a matter of kind of, here's kind of the issue with it. And I've thought about this a lot in terms of like metagaming. And I think Esfand is right with like content creators kind of defining metagaming. But I don't think that if you deleted YouTube, you'd still have metagaming. There's always going to be like that thing that everybody uses no matter what. And one of the reasons for that is because oftentimes it's better. And there's a misconception that I think a lot of people have that metagaming only really affects the top 1% or 2% of players. And you're right. That's because the ceiling is higher for them. But if you're playing with a meta build or a meta spec, you automatically start 1 or 2% higher, 3 to 4% higher. So it doesn't matter where you are in the game. By playing this other version of it or playing it in a certain way, you're just simply at an advantage. Like, that's all there is to it. And because information is so prevalent now, and the trading and, you know, internet, etc., is so common with like figuring out these different things, you have people that figure out the options and they figure out the best one very, very early on. And I don't know if there's really a way to stop that at all. But the other issue I was going to say is that if you take like every pool of players, right? You look at every single group of priests, like let's say in all of Classic WoW. And then you take the pool of human priests and then the pool of dwarf priests. And almost every person who is primarily focused on in-game gameplay and high performance, PvP, you know, that kind of stuff, almost every single one of them is probably going dwarf. So you're going to have a higher ratio of good players inside the dwarf priest group than you would inside of the human priest group, because most people that are playing human priests would have made the decision to go dwarf if they cared about their performance on a fundamental level. And so I think it's an issue that kind of like it self-exacerbates itself. It's kind of like what happens between Alliance and Horde on retail WoW. Because like as more people go Horde, then more people go Horde, and it just kind of creates this loop where the worst players are stuck on Alliance because they don't really care anyway, because if they did care, they would have transferred to Horde.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's certainly the case with like you might have a higher likelihood that the more min-maxy type of players are gonna do things a certain way, and those types of players also tend to maybe be better players because they want to play the game that way. But I also think that directly goes against the, and this is turning into a more like specific like Classic WoW discussion, I guess. But you know, you also, the Classic raids are not that hard, right? And then that's like a big notion too. Like people are like, oh well, Classic is easy anyway, right? So then I feel like you have this like counter. Like this, like
there's always a counterbalance, right? It's like,
yeah,
do you want to play what's
just like
best?
weird to me because I'm like, so you want to
really
do this,
matter?
but then also you think this, so then why? Like, I don't know. It's just a weird thing.
Yeah, and that's one of the problems I think that people are kind of worried about with Covenants is that, you know, going into it, if for whatever reason it looks like Venthyr is going to be really good, and I want to go Venthyr. Like if it's just purely an aesthetic choice, I will go Venthyr every day of the week. Okay, like I look like a vampire already. I think it just makes sense. So yeah, I love that. But at the same time, like if Kyrian is way better, I'm gonna have to go Kyrian. Like there's no way I'm gonna make it.
Well,
yeah.
Also
because that's the way you want to play the game. You want to do the thing naturally that gets you like the highest performance.
Yeah.
Well, it's bigger than that, you know, with the way that these systems actually work. And that was actually what I wanted to jump into right now, because there are going to be active solo gameplay decisions now. So if you want to be a farmer for some reason, I don't know why you'd want to do that, but if you want your Mr. Pandaria farm back, you have to actually select a faction for that. If you want to play Build-A-Bears in Maldraxxus, you got to actually choose that covenant. And I think that there is potential for some of these systems to actually be fun, right? I think that they could be interesting, fun gameplay. I hope if they're adding them in, they're not just throwaway content, because it's most likely going to be something that you have to do. When you look at all these different Soulbinds, they look like they have potential to be fun, and actually get to switch them up quite a bit and try different things out with them. And maybe
that's
you
awesome.
Can progress.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you could actually progress multiple Soulbinds and actually like the way that maybe it'll be less toxic than maxing out your essences now. And it could be something that somebody wants to do solo and have a fun time doing. Now, there's a bunch of content gated behind these choices now, even down to how you juice up your zone based off of the way that your anime gets spread out throughout the zone. That has huge implications on how you play the game on a solo level as well. And if a lot of this stuff isn't account wide, if certain fun content is kept from players, like I really think that there needs to be account wide progression, the ability to switch between all of these, or to unlock all of them if you want to go. Like, why should somebody not be able to play all of that content and actively get to take over the entire map, level up every single soulbind, level up every single covenant, and have that mastery. Besides lore reasons that, just write it so it makes sense.
Well, it's also, I mean, the covenants are friendly with each other to begin with. I mean, like, I think the issue really is that Blizzard has convinced themselves that this is something that's necessary for the game, even though it's never existed in the game previously. There's never really been a point where a massive gameplay decision like this is locked between a choice that's very hard to revert. Like Scryers versus Aldor is nowhere even in the same universe as this. And I think that they're kind of looking at them. One of the interviews today referred to them kind of as subclasses, and like that's a Dungeons and Dragons thing. And I think that's okay, right? It's a cool way to look at it, but I think that whenever you see like the feedback from the community, and it feels like these decisions with the Covenant specifically, they're being made in a vacuum. Because if you play WoW and you know how people consume content in WoW, you would know that this is not going to go over well on players, and it's just going to be turned into a game system.
Oh, look, I gotta jump in because I know a lot of people don't actually maybe play Dungeons and Dragons as much, and I'm gonna be trying to get you guys to play with me soon. Dungeons and Dragons I feel like when people have these conversations, they give Dungeons and Dragons this rep like it's a game that's like you make like all of these permanent choices all of the time. When Dungeons and Dragons is a game that's all about freedom of choice and actually getting to do crazy wild shit. Instead of having a game telling you what you can do, a lot of the time you're going to have a dungeon master who actually is like, I'm going to let you roll for this. And you're going to have these crazy moments that happen. You have a person making those decisions and allowing you to go wild within reason. And on top of that, there are plenty of opportunities where you can switch up different things about your character. Like, it's not a game that locks you in to all of these crazy moments. And then on top of that, you look at other RPGs with big decisions. I've been playing Divinity a whole bunch. Like, that is an RPG where you're making active decisions in the story all of the time. Sometimes you're choosing getting more story or getting more power. Like there's an ability called Pet Pal that allows you to talk to animals. If you have that, you basically turn into train wrecks, right? You're able to talk to everybody at the conventions. But the thing is you have to give up a level of power to get that. You might not be able to get, like, one of the other things that would be in the same slot as that would be Executioner, which basically gives you the ability to get additional actions after you actually take something down for the first time in combat during a turn. So, like, if you actually kill an enemy, you then get the ability to do another attack, for example. It's a really powerful thing. Pet Pal is in the same area as that, but you might want to do it because you might want to learn more about the game, learn more about the universe, and choose story. But you know what you can do in that game at any time you want? You can change all of your abilities for free. You just go to a mirror and you change all of your abilities. You change all of your skills. You change all of your attributes. You change everything, and it's completely free. So even in an RPG where you make those big choices, you are able to change it up and experience the game in a different way.
Let's go back. I want to talk about something else. I want to talk about the way, because the Covenants thing, I think we really just need to see how Blizzard's going to balance them. Preach said the difference between the Covenants is at some points 40% output. If they don't have, I don't think they're going to balance this correctly because they've never balanced anything else correctly, and it's just probably going to be a shit show. But if by some miracle Blizzard actually makes it happen, I will be amazed. But one thing I think we were talking about earlier is Torghast and the way that, like, the esports kind of drive the development of the game. And I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but I feel like all of the dungeons in BFA and also in Legion, lesser to an extent in Legion, but in BFA, they all feel very formulaic. And if you go back and you play a game, you play a dungeon like Maraudon in Classic WoW or BRD in Classic WoW, you have like this large expansive dungeon that really feels more like a dungeon. And I think that, they've kind of captured that to an extent with Mechagon. I think Mechagon is one of the best dungeons they've ever made.
Mechagon was amazing.
Incredible.
It was incredibly fun.
And I want to see them do more dungeons that aren't designed for the MDI. And I think that's kind of the way it is that dungeons are designed now for being MDI. They have a trash pack, boss, trash pack, mini boss, trash pack, boss. And it just kind of goes the same way. and they feel very formulaic in that way. And I don't know exactly how they can solve that, but I don't know. It just seems like kind of just sucks.
I mean, I think with Mechagon, they took a step in the right direction, and I do genuinely think this. I think they saw the overwhelming success of Classic, because Classic WoW did way better than anybody at Blizzard, I think, expected, or at least like anybody who, would have been in charge of making like big decisions, I guess. I don't think they expected it to be the success that it was, as far as like the amount of people playing it, the amount of people still playing it. So I think what they did was they probably went and they were like, okay, obviously not everything in Classic is better. I think there's this weird thing where it's like, oh, everything, that's how they did it in Classic, so obviously that's the way to do it. And it's like, no, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's better, right? It's just different versions of the game at different points in time. There were certain things that they can go back and look at and say, you know what, we did that really well, or people like this. Why do they like this? And we don't have to go and take that same thing and put it in the game now. But what we do need to do is we need to find out why they like this so much and take that why and apply it to something else, or make something else that can be applied to that and put that in the game.
Well, I'll say one thing, right? A dungeon that I think breaks this mold to an extent is Court of Stars and Legion. And I think Court of Stars and Legion was, it was like, in terms of like dungeon competitiveness, it was kind of shitty, because you had like 3 or 4 different random elements that would happen inside of it. You had different buffs, and then the buffs that would kill the mini bosses before the second boss, I believe. And then you also had to talk to the different NPCs for figuring out who the NPC is actually the Dreadlord, which NPC was actually the Dreadlord. And it was different, but I think that Court of Stars is one of the best dungeons that they've ever made. Like, I really, really like Court of Stars. Like, looking back on it in retrospect, it was probably the best dungeon in Legion.
It was some of the most fun. It was some of the most fun to cast too, right?
Yeah, because it's like you had like those elements of randomness that would happen.
Like,
that's cool.
There are a lot of weird things, to go back to the idea that you're bringing up, though, where it does feel like certain things, like that actual content that's being created on the esports side of things, can impact the gameplay. Like, look at Torghast, for example. I think a lot of people in chat are actually going to like say, and I've seen people say it before, will be like, Torghast sucks to watch. Like, I don't get why you guys like it. And I understand that. I actually understand why watching Torghast would not be the most enjoyable thing to watch, but it is super fun to play. Like, there is a difference sometimes between those two things, and making something that's fun to watch and making something that's fun to play are very different. And I think that you should lean towards the side of, when you're making a game, of making something that's fun to play rather than fun to watch.
Yeah, I'll be happy about that. And if you have enough people that it's fun to play for, you'll end up having more that it's fun to watch for. I think that's kind of the way that I look at it. And like, a lot of people do like watching Torghast. Like, earlier I was doing Torghast, and people were happy. So I think if you do it every day, like, here's kind of the thing, is like, my stream, I have a lot of like kind of variety in my stream. Not that I play the game different, or I play different games, but I just play the game differently in a lot of different ways, right? I'll go do a mount run, go watch a video, go watch another video, go watch another video, and read Reddit, then go watch another video. So there's a lot of variety in the way that I do things and the different content that I do on my stream. But if you're just doing Torghast all fucking day, of course that's going to be boring to anybody.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I do think that, to a lot of people, they're paying much more attention to not how, like, when they are watching it, to how it feels to be that broken. They're just like, wait, this guy's just one-shotting everything, and all of the rooms look exactly the same. I think it's pretty obvious how Torghast can get boring.
I want them to change the room types. Like, I want to see a patch, and like patch 9 point fucking, like, what are we even on right now? It's patch 9.3, where we actually go back into Azeroth, and instead of Torghast being a tower, make it like a frozen tundra on like the coast of Icecrown. And you just go farther and farther and farther into this like endless, blinding tundra. That would be fucking badass.
I mean, how would you feel? I mean, that does sound badass, but how would you guys feel too if every single room you went to could just be completely random, right? Like, all of a sudden
there should be a theme.
Oh, what is?
I like themes.
Okay.
Yeah. What is? I'm trying to think. I'm trying to blank here. I think this is the concept of what's it called? Is it I can't remember what it is, but there's a term for it where things are randomly generated, like maps.
Procedural generation. Proc
Yes.
gen.
Yes.
So,
Yep, proc.
I kind of don't like that. Like people have talked about like, oh, it could be amazing because it's a new experience every single time, right? I think what makes games so good a lot of times is that familiarity. And I mean, you just think about it, like any game you've played and you walk into an area. I mean, I remember the first time I played Dark Souls where you go through and you come up over the hill and then you see like this wide open expanse and you see the tower in the corner and the clouds and it's like foggy. Like these are like visual thematic things that are stuck in my head. I remember going into I remember going into Black Rock Mountain for the first time and being like, what the frick?
Well, like,
right?
here's
like,
what I'm saying, dude, is like, imagine if you went into Black Rock Mountain and inside, like, imagine if you had to swim all the way to the bottom of the lava in Black Rock Mountain and it would teleport you to a Torghast effective system and you would be going deeper and deeper and deeper into the mountain for like 50 levels or something like that until you got to fight against Ragnaros again. As like the final fucking boss.
Yeah, dude.
That would be so fucking badass. And
you
like
have to
so then have
him.
the levels procedurally generated. So like they look different every time. The mobs are a little bit different every time, but it's still, you know, the inside of a volcano. It's not like you're gonna randomly go into a forest.
The theme would be similar.
Yeah.
Maybe.
So also the thing with proc gen, just like proc gen isn't usually what happens. So all right, not to go into too much detail with how proc gen actually works, but there are a few different ways to do proc gen, and it looks like they're using Diablo's kind of style of proc gen, which is basically there are big tile pieces that already exist.
It's boring.
And then those tiles connect. So you, as an intelligent player who's played it a whole bunch, you will walk through and you'll go, oh, I know it's these 3 tiles, and you'll just instantly know. There are different types of proc gen that are a little bit more involved. Sometimes even with the more involved version, somebody who plays the game for a very large amount of time will know the types of patterns and how to traverse those patterns really well. But the way that this proc gen does work, Asmon and I have played a bunch of Torghast, and even when we were playing together way back when it first came out, we were instantly like, oh, it's this, and this. This is what we're going to do.
It's going to be these mobs. And like, yeah, I want to see them do a lot more with it. And I do think the imagery of Torghast will get boring for players, but what I can really hope for the most is that Torghast, that does get boring for them, which I think, yeah, it'll happen, but they'll still be excited to do it because it'll give them good gear, and Blizzard will change the zones and like the different maps and stuff like that, and just add more things into the pool. And like whenever you go into Torghast now, like I haven't done this before, but you go into Torghast and there's like this antechamber and there's all of these different portals that you can go in and places that you can try. And I think that if they develop Torghast in a more involved way, with having things like what we're talking about, like a forest area, a tundra area, a volcano area, something like that, each one would be its own different path. And I think that'd be really cool.
Yeah, actually having like a lot, like in a lot of those dungeoneering games, there are a bunch of different ways that you actually choose different things, right? And actually need to react and take different powers because you know it's going to be better in the run. I think having different types of seeding exist in a run could be interesting. I don't think it's 100% the way that they do need to go, but I think as it starts to develop more and more, they need to make some more dramatic decisions. So it's not just this simple, very flat, vanilla performance throughout the entire, not to insult, I was not insulting vanilla like I'm just saying like basic half of a roguelike instead of all the way going down one path and making sure that you're making interesting decisions. And I think that they have started to do that. I'm excited to see where it does go all the way. You mentioned the legendaries though. We have gotten some more information.
Yeah. So Esfand, do you know how the legendaries work in Shadowlands?
Yeah, I've seen like you can do you can basically craft them. I think they want to call on. I think the Legion legendary system, whenever I first started playing Legion, because I came into Legion late, was kind of bad at first, because there were things that like some legendaries were just straight up so powerful. I think there was was it the ring for paladins that just gave you divine purpose straight up?
High Lord,
like, yeah, and it's like, dude, this is. I mean, it literally gives you a bonus talent, and it's insane. It's an awesome talent. I think it wasn't until maybe it was the last patch of Legion where they made it to where you could actually grind for them and you could buy them.
Mhm.
And that was a little bit better. I think with them making it to where you craft the legendaries I don't know. I think that it could help in two ways by making crafting maybe a little bit more interesting, because the crafting systems in retail right now are not interesting.
The crafting,
Yeah.
it looks like it's a focus. Like, I don't know if you've
Yeah.
seen like the pictures, the screenshots of the UI, but it does look like it's a strong focus Blizzard is having on crafting and making it actually like a meaningful thing. I know you
Yeah.
played PoE a little bit, but you probably didn't really explore the crafting system a whole lot.
Dude, he mirrored a gray, dude.
It was a blue.
No, it was a gray.
Oh,
I didn't even know that you could
Oh.
do that. I was, oh my god.
Hey,
well, you know, they're
Look.
taking a lot of ideas from PoE and they're using it in WoW, which again, as we said earlier, is a good idea. I'm happy about that. So like you craft like your base armor, and then you're using you use like different items to empower it into becoming legendary. And the legendary effects that you're getting, there's going to be some new ones, of course, but there's also going to be a lot of them that are the old legendary effects and old tier set bonuses and trinket bonuses. They're going to be brought back and made into legendaries for Torghast. And
So,
I think
here were
that's
the-
really cool.
Yeah, here were the bullet points that were actually said. The ability to make multiple legendaries over the course of a raid tier with the limit of only one that you can equip at a given time create interesting decisions, but players have control over these decisions. You'll probably acquire legendaries faster than you did in Legion, but the final rate has yet to be determined. That was actually in a developer interview with Ian Hazukosis, and I believe Tally. I could be wrong about that, but I think that that was who it was with. I'm not 100% sure, but
Yeah.
it sounds like they're going in the right direction. But I do want to say one thing, just a word of warning: Legion legendaries also were in that vein. I don't think that they'll make this mistake again. We were all really excited for legendaries, and it looked like that they were going to be acquired. Then all of a sudden, one day you log on, and that just wasn't the case on live.
But yeah, you know the thing that everybody said, okay, well, at least they have this, so it'll be fine. Yeah, well, we got rid of that. So it's not fine anymore, but we're still shipping it. Fuck you. That's pretty much what they
Yeah.
did.
Yeah, it did kind of feel like they spat in our mouths a little bit with that one. I wasn't sure why that happened. I don't know what the actual decision was, but that was something that happened. And that's why I feel like being vocal, even when stuff is good in the beta, and like really being like, this is really good, please don't change it. The other option seems like it would be really bad, is important because the legendaries looked great in Legion, and then they released, and Esfand kind of hit it on the head. They were less than fun when they came out initially, and then they became fun in like 2 years later. And we don't want to see that happen with these new legendaries.
yeah. I mean, and that kind of seems like inevitably, and this is how gaming has gone. When you can put out a game and just patch it, it leaves a lot of room
It's
for.
going to suck on release.
Yeah, it leaves a lot of room for that. So, I think there's two parts to this, right? And there's the whole like beta for Azeroth thing. Whenever BFA came out, everyone was like, "Wait, this is broken. This is dumb. Like, people told you about this. Why didn't you do this?" The amount of beta testing that they get is nothing compared to like the first week of launch. Even there's so many more people playing the game than even got into beta or alpha. Or some people get beta and alpha access and just don't play because they're like, this doesn't matter.
They
And
log
so
on,
they're-
run around a little bit. Well, that's cool.
Cool.
All right. That's
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
So they don't get good legitimate testing a lot of times, and then the game releases and then it's broken. They're like, whoa, wait, what happened? It's like, well, yeah. So it goes both ways, right? But that's just life. That's how gaming has gone.
Yeah, I mean, just having
There is,
different
brother.
things like, crafting legendaries and having crafted gear matter and different things like this, I think it really does make a big difference in terms of getting people to be more engaged with the game and actually feeling like they have a lot of control over their character's gear. And I think that like in Legion and also at the beginning of BFA, now so it's not so much the case because you have more control over your gear. But at the beginning of BFA, like there's almost no ways to actually go after the items and the pieces of gear that you want. And that just is a terrible feeling because you're just sitting there pulling the lever on a slot machine. And the best thing that you can hope for is it's a weighted lever for the item that you want, but you're still pulling a fucking lever. And another thing that Ian talked about, I don't know like Asfand, if you've done any PvP in BFA, like
not in the most
large
recent
scale
patch.
PvP.
Oh, like
It's
large
gotten
scale, you mean?
the lag in like the lag is worse in a 40v40 battle in
Yeah.
BFA than a 200 versus 200 battle in Classic.
So I actually talked to someone from Blizzard about this.
What this?
I think this was during the beta, and they talked like because I brought it up as like, how come private servers are better than this? And they were talking about how they took basically because they're down converting everything in Classic from retail. There's so many more processes and stuff going on in a small area compared to what it was before on even original Classic or private servers or whatever, that it just constantly has to update everything, right? There's so many things going through the combat log, and they use the example of if you did the same thing in retail, it wouldn't even be close. Like if just like you said, like a 40v40 battle is worse than a 200v200 in Classic because there's GCD is lower because of haste. There's more spells going on. There's more abilities. There's way more things that are being logged constantly, and it just like bogs down the server if there's too many people in a small area.
It's too fucking many, dude.
But it's kind of dumb. Like it's like bloat. Like, is there any way to reduce that? I don't know.
You have your the hidden stat scaling system for PvP. Like, you know about this, right, Esfand? The hidden scaling system.
A little bit, but I don't know the specifics of it.
So imagine if you have really, really good gear and you hit somebody for 100k, and the person you hit for 100k is in greens. They don't take 100k. Even though it says you did 100k, they don't take 100k. They take 70k instead. So they're literally just lying to the players. They're telling you, oh no, you're doing lots of damage, you're being a good boy, and you're not. It's so fucking stupid. So you have like that internal system. You have like whenever you do your attack, like every attack that you do, if you want to understand how BFA's combat system works, get a bowl full of dice, and every single auto attack is just grabbing a handful of those dice and throwing them at whatever you're trying to attack. And that's basically every single proc that you have.
Yeah. You saw that in one of the dev interviews, they were like, Preach's video isn't too far off from what's going on, right?
That's what Ian said.
Yeah, was it Ian who actually said it?
Yep.
I just saw Preach like tweet it out, and he's like, "Not being smug, hello bolas." I was like, "All right, dude." like he literally highlighted the problem is the game is more complicated. There was a Preach video that speculated what was going on, and he wasn't too far off. Yep. And I think that we all saw that Preach video and was like, this makes a lot of sense. You don't need to be an IT person to realize that this does make a lot of sense. And I think a lot of the things that they're doing are actively fighting against that. And that is a very good thing.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And I'm just glad, I think honestly, like just being understanding, and it's good to see Ian, like whenever we talk about these issues, and he gets the question and he just says, yeah, it sucks. Like not some kind of bullshit answer, not anything like that. He's like, yeah, this sucks and something needs to happen. Like, thank you, Ian. At least now we have like an honest conversation going on here rather than, you know, a bunch of beating around the bush. I'm very glad about that.
Communications felt, I mean, a million times better. And
yeah, I agree with that.
Like, I feel like usually you say something like that and it doesn't really have as big an impact, but I mean, just look this time around. They made one of the worst choices that they could have possibly made with Torghast when they added the torments, and everybody was like, wait, this is really, really bad. Please remove this. And they were like, yep, get it. We tried it. It didn't work. We're iterating. We're listening to what you say. And then all of a sudden it's gone. I just hope that the same thing happens with Covenants when we get to test them more thoroughly. I know that the beta is obviously going to be coming out soon from everything that we've heard. More people are going to get to test stuff. They're going to be throwing more stuff at us, I'm assuming. And I hope that if the Covenants do not feel good, that they do make these changes, because I've never seen them backpedal away from a feature that is
on
so
the box.
Feature that is on the box,
yeah. Unless it was mounted vehicle combat in Wrath of the Lich King, which never made it into the game, which is disappointing.
The only thing that was ever on the box that didn't make it in.
Yeah.
And then the dance studio was slightly different.
Yeah, that is. I think they're almost adding that with the Venthyr thing now, or something like that. Now, I mean, like obviously we have Esfand on. Esfand is mostly, he's a classic guy. You mainly play Classic. How are you feeling about the AQ release? It's coming out on the 28th, and hopefully we'll have a week 1 or 2 opening of the gates. It's hard to say.
I mean, dude, so
we have 21%.
Specific to our server.
21% so far.
Specific to our server, at least, yeah, we've been keeping up with it pretty well, like as a guild with Crusade. But we looked at like the general like contribution from everyone, and it's been really bad. We wanted to have like an early opening. I mean, people want it open as fast as possible. Some people do. Some people want to wait a little bit so they can get more mounts. I don't think we're going to open it up as fast as we possibly can, but I think we probably still can do it within within the first reset that you possibly could. So that's what a lot of people are hoping for. I don't think we're planning on stalling for mounts. The mount discussion is a whole thing, because with at 100% efficiency per layer, you could only get, I think it's 9 mounts. That means if every single thing, every single mob that you need to kill is killed right away, and you just sit there and you respawn and nobody ever sleeps, and it doesn't ever sit there. I don't think that is likely to happen. I think that at most that probably means there's going to be like 7 per layer, and with how many more people are playing the game now than there were back then, how many more of those people that are playing the game, a higher percentage of them are doing end game content, a higher percentage of guilds doing end game raiding, a higher percentage of which inevitably leads to a higher number of people that are probably eligible or realistically can attain those mounts. I think that it's going to be kind of tough. Back in the day, you saw at most, I think, 3 mounts on a server. I don't think you ever saw more than 3 mounts on any server.
The only time,
and most of them were 1.
Yeah, most servers were 1. So like our server back in the day, the fucking horde. So like Crimser, I don't know if you guys ever seen this guy. He's a warrior in my old guild from back in Vanilla and BC. He had everything done, and they ring the gong when he went to bed.
Dude, there was a big drama. He didn't
fucking get his mount. I felt so bad for that guy, man. I really did.
Oh,
that sucks, dude. Yeah. There was a big drama, and I played on Illidan before I transferred to Kel'Thuzad at the end of Vanilla. And I'm trying to remember exactly what it was. I think it was there was some stuff with like Blood Legion, and I think it was like Piccolo and Z Extreme, and I don't remember all the details, but I think it was Piccolo went to go ring the gong, and they had all planned on, hey, this is the date and time we're going to ring the gong, we're going to be ready to go. And maybe somebody in chat played on Illidan and remembers. But yeah, it was like Team Ice and Blood Legion. Team Ice had Piccolo, who's a Tauren warrior, and he went and rang the gong early, and then Z Extreme from Blood Legion ended up not being able to get his mount because I think he was like at school or whatever. So yeah, that was like a whole big drama. And maybe I'm remembering it wrong, the exact details, but that's just how.
I don't know if I'm going to go for Scarabord or not. Have you decided if you're going to?
I think if I go for Scarab Lord, it would happen. It's in the last week of my rank. So realistically, if I'm to hit
more,
Grand Marshal,
what matters more?
Scarab Lord, dude. Look,
I mean, Scarab Lord matters. Scarab Lord does matter more.
It's a mount, dude.
It's about timing.
Mount.
Swords come and go, but mounts are forever.
Right, but so here's how it works right now. Is I've been bracket 1 for a few weeks, and I'm going to hit rank 13 this week at bracket 1, and then I will have 3 more weeks of ranking to hit rank 14. If I had just committed and said I was going to go for rank 14 and decided I was going to go for rank 14 right away, this would be a non-issue, right? But because I kind of like pussyfooted around and do I want to do it or do I not? Okay, I'll go for 13, and then we had a bad stack. Somebody broke at the last second, and I dropped 5% RP. Because otherwise, I should have been rank 13 this week. So a little bit of drama, messed up the stack. A lot of us got an extra week added on. It didn't change my date for rank 13, but it did change my date for rank 13. And because I needed 1 week, or I needed 2 weeks and then 3 weeks for 14 instead of 1 week and then 4 weeks, I'm like, well, at that point, like I might as well go for 14. And then boom, they announced AQ40 on that last week. So to be able, if realistically, if I'm able to hit Grand Marshal and get a Scarab Lord mount, like that is going to be.
That's pretty big dick.
Yeah, that's.
That's like beating Classic.
I don't know if I'll be able to do it. So
Yeah.
I we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm excited for it. I think almost everybody's excited for AQ. Do you want to see them release Cthulhu pre-nerf?
I think it'd be fun,
Okay.
but I don't think they will because they have not shown any sign of in any way really. They haven't shown any sign of doing anything other than the last version, going anything other than what was in 1.12, which for almost every encounter was the easiest version.
Maybe it's
So
wishful thinking, but
uh,
I bet, dude, I bet they're
well,
not testing it because of that.
well, I don't know. I mean, they
They
didn't
don't.
test BWL, but they did test ZG. So
That's
and they
true.
did test AQ20. So it's just hard to tell. I think there's two parts to this too. If somebody beats Cthulhu pre-nerf, and there's a lot of different factors to this, but if somebody beats Cthulhu pre-nerf, then Ian was wrong. Because Ian was
Well,
the
you think
guy
he's
who
not
was
going to
so
do it,
adamant.
so he doesn't want to be wrong? You think that's what it is?
I mean, look, I'm just saying, if
Yeah.
somebody does beat it pre-nerf, then the narrative is going to be Ian was wrong.
Look, dude, I mean, Ian's guild couldn't kill 5 Priest Takar in
Yep.
full Nax gear with world buffs and flasks, and random warriors and some other guild in Europe just went in there and dumpstered him before the first blood siphon.
Yeah.
Like 5 minutes after the game came out. I
Yeah.
don't even want to hear it, man.
So-
Like, that shit's
so-
going to be a joke.
Well, and I think that there's a number of
Australia,
other factors, right?
apparently.
Because we have all the 1.12 class balance, which
Yeah.
didn't exist at the time where Ian. Now people aren't going to know this or understand this, or account for this. We have all 1.12 talents, all the class balance changes, the buffs, everything is in the game. All the latest versions of the items that are available are now in the game. We're playing a very different game than we played back in vanilla. This isn't the same game we played in vanilla. Private servers were not the same game that we played in vanilla. This is not the same game that people played on private servers. This is a new version of vanilla that people are playing, and it is a different experience. If you've played both or all three versions, then you'll understand that. I think I'm not going to say that it's impossible. I don't think that's impossible even, but I don't think that Blizzard's going to do it, and I would like to see them do it because I think it would be very, very interesting.
It'll just be fun. I think that's the main thing. It'll just be fucking fun. To me, like, I'm hoping that they do that, and I like the idea of, like, classic WoW kind of having these patches come out in between retail WoW patches. So
Yeah.
I'm expecting we're gonna have Nax come out maybe like 3 or 4 months into Shadowlands. That's probably what it's gonna look like, because there's no way we're gonna see Nax until before Shadowlands. I don't think so. I would certainly hope not, honestly.
Yeah, I think what's going to happen is this is my like timeline of how I think things are going to pan out. So AQ came out about when I thought it was going to come out, or it's going to come out about when I thought it was going to come out. I think Shadowlands is likely to come out in late September or October. That's just what I think sounds reasonable. Because back in the day there was like about a 5 or 6 month period between AQ40 and Nax. So this would fall right in there. So people who are playing WoW, right, retail or classic, are going to have AQ40, and then a couple months later, Shadowlands comes out, and right before that is going to be pre-patch, and that's content in and of itself. And then I think we will probably see Nax around November or December time, which would fall in line with the original timeline pretty closely, and then eventually that would lead to a Burning Crusade classic coming out at the beginning of summer so people can actually play. You remember that whole drama where people are like, you said classic summer and it's literally like the first week of school that you guys are releasing it. So I do think that Nax realistically should come out maybe November, December-ish, maybe mid to late November. You're going to have Shadowlands, Nax, then the first patch, or I guess second patch, whatever you want to call it, for Shadowlands, and then Burning Crusade. I mean, it's literally going to be nonstop.
I think
if you're a WoW player,
I want to
right
see
now,
it in January. I want to see, I want to see Nax in January. But you're totally right. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I was going to say that if you're a WoW player right now, this is such an exciting time to play because you're going to have so many things to do, whether it's classic or retail, and not everybody likes both. Not everybody likes classic, not everybody likes retail, and some people like neither. But if you do like both, then you are spoiled. You're ridiculously spoiled right now. And Burning Crusade is going to be nuts. Like it's going to be nonstop for a long time.
Imagine if Shadowlands is good and BC comes out. Like,
I honestly,
yeah, that'll be interesting.
well, I think people are going to play BC a lot. I don't think BC is going to have the same shelf life as Classic. I think people are going to be much more cyclical with it because they won't have like the huge leveling experience in the same way that like Classic is. But maybe I'll be wrong. TBC will have Arena. It'll have like a few other things too that make it a little bit more interesting than Classic WoW.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm curious what Esfand's opinion on this, because I feel somewhat similar. I feel like the initial craze won't be anything like Classic was. Like I actually changed my flight to get back after TI to spam play, and I think everybody locked themselves inside of their places, even pre-quarantine, to play Classic nonstop for like a week. Like people took off work to do it. I don't think that's what's going to happen necessarily with BC. I mean, obviously people are going to go crazy when it first comes out, but I feel like BC lends itself more to having that cyclical play and being like, okay, we're going really hard right now on retail, and now I can go back to BFA or to BC. Like I feel it actually lets you hop back in a little bit easier than Classic does.
Yeah, the design of the game is a little bit more like that. I think there's two parts to this. I think the pent up like frustration of not having legacy servers for so long was just like a huge buildup leading into Classic WoW. Huge, right? Also from like a marketing standpoint, Classic WoW, we're going back, all this stuff. Classic Burning Crusade is going to be cool. Mostly people who know about it are going to be interested. Now, on the flip side of things, the people who know about it, I think are going to be very excited. Like there's going to be maybe less overall interest of people like drawing new people in or whatever.
About it, yeah.
But the audience of people that are already there, I think are going to be incredibly excited for it because whether, it's the same thing. You hadn't played the game in like 15 years, or if you were playing private servers, they're really like historically not have been the same quality of Burning Crusade private servers as there were vanilla private servers. Like I didn't really play Burning Crusade private.
Well, there's people that have like
screwed around like a couple times.
Private servers too. I mean,
sorry, say it again.
People have like Mists of Pandaria private servers too, but like people don't really play them. You're right. I mean, most of the theory crafting of coding and everything has been centered around vanilla WoW. That's been the focus with like almost.
That's been the focus.
Yeah, it's like 80% of 90% of private servers. Like now we're seeing a few TBC servers come out and like people are more into it. But before I think that most people are pretty much playing vanilla WoW private servers. Before we move on to the questions, Esfand, is there anything that you want to talk about on here? Like anything about Shadowlands or like the Classic or anything?
I think we covered a lot of Shadowlands stuff. We talked about more Classic stuff than I thought we were going to talk about. I mean, I'm really excited for both. So I think it's a good time to go for questions.
That's the main thing is like, I want to emphasize this again. I've said it like 2 or 3 times already, but it is a good time to be a WoW player right now. There is so much shit coming out right now. You're going to be very excited to play like fucking Shadowlands. And then you've got all the content in Shadowlands, which I think will actually be good. And you also have TBC as well. And I want to say like, I'm excited about every WoW expansion because it's a WoW expansion, but I'm also excited about Shadowlands because it's Shadowlands. With TBC, or sorry, not TBC, BFA, I could not say that. I was mostly just excited to get a new WoW expansion. Whereas Shadowlands, I'm actually excited because of the game.
Yeah. I quit BFA more times than I've been fired. That's a lot. That's a lot. So here's the first question. This is a pretty good question. Asmon, why do you still call Esfand Esfand?
That's a good question.
Do I?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's from me.
I feel like I switch it back and forth,
Yeah, that's how it goes.
Like Esfand. Did I say Esfand? I think it's really just like a tone thing.
I've tuned it out at this point. I
used to say it too.
Well, I only notice whenever other people say Esfand instead of Asmon. I've tuned it out at this point where like if Asmon says, I'm just like, okay, whatever. So
I don't know why. I thought it was always like a tone thing. I didn't realize at all.
Well, oh my god! You know the worst part? I actually think I started it. I at first called Esfand Esfand. All during the Classic Dueling tournament too, and then like I think we kind of like spun it out of control then for a little while, but then I corrected myself and
The
Asmon has it.
worst part about it, I feel good, okay, because I told my mom, obviously, saying, yeah, I'm gonna play with Esfand, and she's like, and like my mom and my dad for the longest time called you Esteban, or
Dude.
Estevan. I'm like, no, that's not it, Dad. Like, it's
My
not
whole
it.
life.
Yeah,
My whole
it's
life, people
crazy.
have thrown a T in there, and I don't know where. Like, it'll not necessarily Esteban, but like Estefan or Estefan.
Yeah.
And I'm like, where's that T coming from? I remember teachers calling me like like just throw a T in there, and I'm like, what the heck?
I have the same shit happen where it's like people say Asmongold.
Mond. Yeah. with a
Like
D.
Asmond. Like, there's no D. There's only one D. Okay, there's not two D's, and tell that. And these are like people that I've known for like 15 years. They're like, Asmond, come here, Asmond. It's like, all right, fuck it, okay.
You know,
you just kind of deal with it at this point. Like, all right.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
You know what's actually really funny is people like make those little mistakes in your names. People just forget my name because I'm kind of irrelevant. Isn't that funny?
Oh, I mean,
my
hey.
name's Rich.
Yeah. Sorry, dude. Where's the next one? You see another good one?
Fourth hunter spec question mark, since they removed the original hunter spec, aka the best spec. The reason that I bring
Survival,
up this
you mean?
question, no, I don't know what they're really saying with this, but the reason that I brought up this question is because I feel like I actually hear from a lot of people who haven't been playing as much, like more casual side of things. A lot of people are like, wait, isn't this like this? David actually kept saying this over and over again. He's like, no, we get a new class every other expansion. We're getting a new one this time, and we're not.
If I want to see any class come into the game, I want to see effectively a Diablo 3 Demon Hunter, and have it have like the Ilaria Void component to it. That would be really, really cool. I don't know if there'd be too much overlap with a Hunter, but if they can't do that, then I would go with a Tinker. I would love to see a Tinker.
I think Tinker
as well.
is like the next in line, right?
Yeah.
I feel like any time, like I feel like I'm shouting Y2K here, but whenever you add in more opportunities, like you're adding in like another, like you're building a building and you're adding in a area of the structure that can potentially break.
Yeah.
Adding in an additional like talent tree or something for a class, like it's just so much potential for it to be unbalanced.
Like
Yeah,
that's how I feel
Dance
about it.
Warriors.
I think that they made a really good decision
Demon Hunters,
to
period.
not add it. Yeah, like this was it was a good decision not to just force one in right now, because they're obviously struggling to not only balance but just to make the specs that they already have in the game interesting or fun. So I don't think that if they manage to solve that, and all of a sudden we have an expansion or two where all the classes feel really good, then yeah, maybe throw a new one into the mix. But I don't think that we actually do need it right now. And that actually comes with the other question as well. I think it lines up pretty decently. He says, do you guys think the WoW devs are going to be able to pull off so many systems in Shadowlands at the same time? It seems a bit like a mess to me.
Yeah, I think they'll be able to do it, but it'll be fucked up.
I think it'll be a rough early patch.
Yeah.
Like I think it'll almost guaranteed be a rough early patch, but if you played WoW for enough years, then you're just gonna kind of deal with it. So you've come to expect that. Just hey, it's gonna happen.
Man, it's actually kind of scary when all of the questions, like I would say 90% of the questions right now are, I'm confused. There are too many systems.
Yeah.
I'm scared about
that's
covenants.
definitely a problem.
Dude, like that is, we've been doing the show for years at this point. I've never seen anything like this before. Like it's like legitimately a lot of questions, and they're all like, yo, what are all these systems? That is scary. That is really scary. So this is a question that's outside of that, since we've already talked to it a little bit. It says, classic question, do you think Blizzard should do something against the boosting culture in WoW Classic? It's very hard to find a leveling dungeon group with half the LFG chat being boost groups for alts, removing these alts from running dungeons for real.
Could you repeat that again? Sorry, I didn't fully understand that.
Basically talking about like the culture of boosting. It says that the
Oh.
LFGs like clogged up with just boosting, even in Classic WoW. Because
Report
I
'em.
mean, the question is
Oh.
about Classic WoW, but I think this is a problem that you can see in Classic and retail right now.
Report them. Like inside the pre-made group finder, it's against the TOS to advertise boosting stuff inside of it, and I'd try to get that stuff out of there. Now, obviously, that's not going to stop boosting. Is it really going to make it stop happening at all? No. I mean, like, I don't. It's such a weird issue because I don't even know how to fix it, because like in retail WoW, you're not doing leveling boosting. You're mostly doing, besides like freehold boosting or whatever, and like who cares about that to begin with? You're doing boosting. It's not against TOS. Oh, okay, guys. I want to. He means classic and retail. I was talking. Well, there isn't a pre-made group finder in classic, so I wasn't talking about that. But anyway, people were confused about that in the chat.
Oh.
Anyway, I'm not really sure exactly what they can do to stop that, but I do think boosting doesn't really make the game any better. But it's people are trying to make gold, and that's really one way they can do to just make gold is just run Scarlet Monastery with people.
Yeah.
Do you think that it does take a lot of because what in the question it was basically like, hey, look, this is taking away actual alts that would be playing the game. Do you feel like that is true in Classic right now, Esfand?
I think it is. I like that's the one thing that I'm like surprised by. There's people who keep saying, well, it's kind of a weird thing because I hear it so much. I can't group with anybody because everybody's just getting boosted. Okay, well, if I'm hearing this so much,
why don't you guys
then
just group with each other?
Maybe you guys should just. I don't know. But I haven't been there. Like I haven't leveled an alt or anything. And if I did, I'm gonna be completely honest. If I did level an alt, I don't have time for it. I would get it boosted 100%. I have so many other things going on right now that I can't even think about leveling an alt. If I had one, I would 1,000% get it boosted, and that's just how I feel.
Leveling's
Now-
fucking annoying in Classic, especially on a PvP server. And if you just have somebody level it for you, then it's way easier and it's faster. That's why everybody does it. Is because
Yeah.
leveling in Classic is bad, and it would have reached the same meta in retail too.
I don't think it's about it being bad. I think it's about it being long, right? And what I said is kind of the problem. Is there's a lot of people who feel that way. It's like I don't got time for that. Like I got to take care of the wife, the kids, mom, dad, whatever, right? Like I got like 100 things going on. I don't have time,
Same.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's just one of those things where if somebody's new to the game, it can be a little bit harder to find these groups and level up and do all that way. I get it. And it is a problem, but it's just that it's so long, right? I think leveling in Classic is more fun than leveling in retail, because when I level a character in retail, I get a few levels in and I'm like, what am I doing? This seems like this is not something that's like in any way rewarding or fulfilling. I just feel like I'm doing like a really bad tutorial where I don't have any of my abilities and I don't even get to really learn how to play the game until I hit max level anyway. Whereas
It's
in
not
Classic,
good.
like I'm ranking my stuff up and okay, I'm putting my talent point in. There's these breadcrumbs, right? It's like I'm somebody on Reddit trying to find out what happened to Doc, right? Like there's okay, you got a talent point. Oh, 2 levels. Oh, you got some skills, right? So
He just
the
came
whole
online in
time-
Discord.
Yeah, like it's like there's a carrot on a stick, and sometimes carrots on sticks are good. Sometimes they're good, right? And at least like you have like a constant like level of fulfillment. You're getting these little small wins over and over again. Whereas in retail WoW, it's like got my talent point, time to go 15 levels before I get another one. Even if it's a faster 15 levels than it is in Classic, it's just like okay, it feels empty. That's how I feel. Even if it's slower, it's very slow.
Now, this question is slightly off topic, but not completely off topic. It says, what activities are Rich, Esfand, and Asmon going to have in store for us once everybody is in Texas?
Group OnlyFans. Just kidding. A lot of stuff. I mean, I think any of us are into this.
It's gonna be good.
We've spent a lot of time at night. We've had a lot of Discord calls that have lasted very long discussing this possibility in very extensive detail. And while we are not able to announce anything right now, you can rest assured that very soon we will.
Hands up.
Mm-hmm.
There it is, dude.
There's it's gonna be a lot of fun. Whether I mean, just look back. I feel like I'm tooting my own horn here, but I'm also tooting both your guys' horns at the same time.
When we get there, yeah, we'll all be able
So
to
there's just gonna be a whole lot of horn tooting going on. But
Good.
I feel like when we did that classic dueling tournament, maybe I'm being a little bit I don't know, like I said, like a little bit arrogant about it or whatever. I think that was one of the best events that I've seen for WoW, period. I think I'm going to go ahead and say I think it was the best. And I'm kind of biased because I was so we did it. But I think that when you put Asmon, Rich, and myself together on any sort of thing like that, any sort of event, like it is a recipe for success.
toot that
I
horn,
agree.
baby.
I agree
think
very
it's-
strongly. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I'm pretty excited.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I am too, man. I definitely am. We've got a lot of things coming up, and can't announce everything right now, but we will soon. What's the next one? We'll do a few more.
What covenant are you the most excited about from what we learned today?
I don't give a fuck. Like I'm just gonna pick whichever one does the most damage. Like that's all there is to it. I mean, like if it's super minimal, then I'll go. Like if there's no difference, then I'm gonna go Venthyr. If there is a difference, then I just hope I don't have to go Night Fae.
So we don't know the answer to this yet. I'm pretty sure. Correct me if I'm wrong, but like we don't know how the I think are they called conduits, the actual items that you put in the Soulbinds?
Yes.
Do we know if they're items yet that we're gonna have to like?
We're gonna loot them, and apparently they're interchangeable. But right now on beta, they're destroyed.
Okay, but they're not gonna be destroyed.
My understanding is that they're not, but I'm not 100% sure.
Okay, because that's a big deal. They should, if they're destroyed like relics were, actual trash. Like that was so bad. Having a piece of loot that first of all muddied up the loot table. I think we can all agree that that was bad. But also it was an interchangeable thing. It was a choice. Some were good for some situations, some were good for others. But you had to destroy it anytime you wanted to switch. If they're relics 2.0, that will be a very bad system.
I agree with that entirely.
Yeah,
I'm
especially
very
if you ever
concerned
want to
about
play a
that.
different spec. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
the game, like, you know, so there's a very classic quote in game design, and it's just basically the idea that game is a series of interesting choices. Ian quoted it today, and I really hope that we don't see more systems that give fake choices, and we don't see any more systems that actually give you a choice on how you're going to lose your choices, because that's what most of it hasn't been. I agree with that quote full-heartedly. It's one of the pillars of game design to this day. I don't think that that's what we saw in Battle for Azeroth, and I hope it is what we see in Shadowlands.
Yeah. Want to do two more?
Yeah.
That's good. I'm good for
Let's
two more.
do.
How do you feel everything has felt now that they've actually done a level squish for the first time in Shadowlands? The Reaper asked.
Who gives a fuck? It's good. I think that, like, honestly, so
I actually think that I actually think that that's the wrong take on that one. The who gives
I
a
love
fuck.
level
really
I
okay.
actually think it feels. I thought that it was going to be like that, but I will disagree with you. I actually give a lot of fucks on this one.
All right.
It feels way better than I thought it would feel. I was kind of against it. I think in a lot of ways, it just felt weird to have regression. But how they've redone the leveling zones and how they've given you choice in leveling to actually experience content again, all of a sudden I'm somewhat excited to maybe level a couple of alts again. I haven't finished leveling some of my characters because I want to go through the full experience and get to level in Wrath of the Lich King content again and things like that, and not have it just be long for the sake of being long. I think that what they've done with the level squish this time around actually feels really good.
Well, that's good. I'm glad you feel that way. I think that one of the most goodest things about this is that for people that don't really understand the game very well, I think there's a general understanding that WoW had 60 levels and now it has 120, and the the barrier there, like the mental barrier, I don't know how many people have messaged me and they've said, oh, well, I don't know if I can get 120 levels. That's way too many levels. There's too many expansions. So, and like, they don't know. It's like, yeah, okay, bro, it'll take you like 3 hours or something like that. But they don't know that. They have no idea. So to them, this is like some insurmountable thing. Mm-hmm. And I think breaking down that mental barrier that people have kind of created about it is going to be good.
I think that that goes along with the same lines of just general, like they've done like number squishes in the past for damage numbers and stuff like that. The numbers get so high that you can't really comprehend what they are. Right, like oh, I just did 50 million damage. How much is that? Right, like it's just like, but numbers in general, and you have preconceived notions about numbers. So if you see like, I mean, some people might think, wow, 1,000 damage, that's a lot, but in the grand scheme of things, it's really not, right? And the same thing. I think that sort of concept applies to what you're saying about the 120 to 60 thing. It could take the same amount of experience, it could take the same amount of everything, same amount of time. And they will just assume that it's not so bad. 60 levels, sure. Even though they have no reason to believe anything about anything, they just know the number of levels they need to get.
Yeah.
So this question is it a coincidence that every added hero class has only been a melee DPS spec and not ranged?
Yeah, it is kind of weird. I wish they had done something else besides that, because like Demon Hunter, DK. And Monk. I mean, all of these are, none of them have a ranged DPS spec.
And you know what's funny about it too?
About it.
You know why it's funny? Because typically with the way that melee is actually balanced, especially in raid, there are less melee slots because range just tends to be better with all the design bosses. So every time you add a new melee hero class, then all the other people play the other specs don't get to play, and a bunch of range go over to the Demon Hunter and stuff like that because it's overpowered and it's like an easier spec to play, and then there's no room in the raid for anyone.
Yeah, they don't need to worry about ranged. I mean, like, if they do that, there'll be no more melee.
Yeah, I guess so.
You got it?
I guess so.
Okay, yeah, that's good. Heirlooms no longer granting experience. I think that's an interesting little final topic to talk about. What do you guys think about that?
Wait, say that again?
Heirlooms no longer grant experience.
Wait, like they no longer add the added experience?
Yeah, I think that's stupid. I don't like it. The reason I didn't like heirlooms, for me personally, I didn't like them because they removed gear progression. Not because of the experience gain.
Not because of the XP bonus.
Like I want them to be enchants on current gear, or some sort of like a tabard that you build up as time goes on. But
what if they made it a potion that you could stack as many times as you want?
Well, then maybe you'll get fucking banned.
Yeah.
I think that's I guess the only thing that I can think of, I actually didn't know that was a change that was made. I'm assuming that the reason that they did it is because they just reworked the entire leveling experience and they feel like it's not needed.
Yeah.
The thing that I completely agree with you, Asmon, on what I did not like about heirloom gear, and the fact that you have one set of gear, not in a whole set maybe, but like, you mostly have like one set of gear throughout your entire leveling experience, and it's just kind of like, okay, I don't have that feeling of getting a new item. I remember whenever Classic came out, and weren't we in Dead Mines, and like some 5 stamina belt dropped, and like we're all like freaking out about it because we were like, no,
the blue belt. We were at the ramp up to the dread ship at the very end, and I won the roll. I remember that shit so fucking clearly.
Dude, and it's like that kind of feeling, like, sure, it was exaggerated because we were excited and all that. It was classic, but like that constant, again, it's the breadcrumbs, it's the small little wins that you feel along the way. Like, that's part of the reason why leveling in retail feels empty.
There's no fucking gear progression. Who cares?
Yeah. Like,
back
I just want to get something new. I don't care how much better it is. Like, I can be like a 1 or 2 stamina upgrade or 1 strength. Oh, I got something new, and I feel like I'm feeling progression.
back in like the old days, I would look forward to like getting my warlock up to like, I remember when I wanted to get my warlock up to 35 because I had bought Staff of Jordan for him, and I'd be able to use Staff of Jordan as soon as I got up to 35. I was like, fuck,
Just
yes,
so you could
dude.
use it. Like, I have an epic staff on my level 30 warlock.
Yeah, and
that's
like
cool.
those are things to look forward to. And like with the heirlooms, you just remove that entire gear progression of low level characters, and it's just like you're just playing the character, and that's it. You never feel more powerful whenever you get something. It's just you're doing the same thing over and over.
Yeah, I think
sucks.
I think it's a huge part of it. I think that also kind of kind of diminishes the new player experience in retail WoW quite a bit right now. But that's something that Blizzard has said themselves, that they think that the new player experience needs a lot of work, and they're actively working to fix that in Shadowlands. Because what is it, level 10 or level 5, where you can now do your first dungeon? It's like you can do it like right away.
Level 8, I think.
Level 8, yeah,
Something like that.
They want to help out the new player experience quite a bit, and that's a very good thing. I think that, you know, people come in, they ask me, like, do you want to, like, I'm new to the game, I'm just now getting interested in WoW, should I play retail or classic? And I tell them, I say, look, there's plenty of reasons to like both. In my opinion, I just think that the new player experience is better in classic because it's way more simple. So I tell them, try both and let me know how it goes. And almost every time people come back and they're like, yeah, I look at retail and I'm like overwhelmed with everything, so I just went and play classic instead. So
yeah, that's pretty much how I feel about it too. I don't know, man. It's one of those things where it's odd to me that Blizzard decided to go in this direction, because it's the exact thing that I don't care about. I don't care about the experience. I think the experience is fine. That's kind of cool, like being able to buy extra things to like make your character level faster.
yeah.
But yeah, man, I appreciate you coming on. I know obviously you got to rank all the fucking time, and at least you've only got a couple of days or weeks left, and then you're done one way or another.
Dude, I got what did I log out with last night? I think like 465k honor, and I'm not playing right now. Usually, like if I'm on a show or anything, I'm playing. But like I felt bad because I'll be on calls with people, or I'll be talking to someone, or I'll be on another show, and I'll be ranking while I'm on the show, and I feel like I'm taken away from the team and getting carried a little bit sometimes whenever I do that.
Well, it's like you're ranking, and then like the one time you go up against a 15-man pre-made, that's like the moment you pick up the phone, and then the queue hits.
Right.
Like,
so like I told them I'm just gonna take today off, and because I want to rank. I was take Tuesdays and Thursdays off and rank super hard on those 2 off days, so that I don't have to worry about any, watching a video recap, any of the other stuff that I do, so I can maximize the honor gain and then rank 4 days a week, and then spend the rest of the week doing the variety streams or WoW content instead of like ranking streams. So even getting some retail and stuff involved eventually. So there's 4 weeks left. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be great. It'll be a huge accomplishment whenever it happens. I mean, I don't think, realistically, I don't think it makes sense for me to be able to hit Scarab Lord or hit Grand Marshal and get Scarab Lord, because it's gonna happen in the same week. Like, that's gonna be me playing as much as I played at Classic launch. So
yeah, that's a bit much.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens.
You should get Scarab Lord. I don't know. Scarab Lord is the only cool thing like that lasts forever.
Yeah.
And if you stopped ranking for a little bit,
I'd have to rank for 2 weeks. I'd have to get I still have to get bracket 3, and then I have to get bracket 1 another week. So it's I mean, and who knows? I gotta crunch the numbers on that, but it might be, if I get bracket 3, I have to get 2 bracket 1s afterwards. I might have to go 2 and then 1, which is still a ton of, like, at that point I might as well get 100k more honor or 200k or whatever else the difference is. So I realistically, I don't have the option of taking a week off, because it's either I lose like multiple weeks of ranking or so we'll see what happens. I mean, if I manage to get Scarab Lord and Grand Marshal, that'll be in the same week. That'll be ridiculous. So
if I had the ability to get Scarab Lord, I would give up everything to try to get Scarab Lord.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really super, like, I don't feel like it's like a massive prestige accomplishment, but I'd want to have it just because it's like you have that cool mount, and it's like one of those things that, like, you never had. I don't know, for me, it's especially for like collecting mounts, it's of course something that I want to have.
Yeah.
But
I don't
yeah.
know. I'll think about what I want to do and just do the best I can. And
Yeah, do what you gotta do. And
Yeah.
one way, I mean, think about it like this: one way or another, either getting Grand Marshal or Scarab Board. Those are two pretty good fucking outcomes.
yeah, and like my stream's gonna change a lot after that point. So like
Yeah.
as far as how I want to approach it, and I've talked to you about that off stream, and I think it's gonna be fun. I think it's a very good time for WoW. I think it's a good time for everything. To be honest, I mean, as far as the game stuff goes, for stream stuff goes, like personally, I have a little bit of a rough patch right now, just because I'm playing so much off stream too. But it'll be worth it. It'll be good.
I think every single WoW player is going through that rough patch right now, right? Obviously, retail's not in the best place right now.
No, it's
Classics a lot. You got to do a lot right now if you're getting ready to get Scarab Lord if you are ranking, but we very much have seen what the future may look like, and it's starting to look pretty good. We talked about a lot of the things today that we expect to see when we do actually get to Shadowlands. A lot of questions still do remain. So next week, we're going to hopefully have even more information to really dive into all of that. And also, I mean, I just feel like the main thing is there are a lot of systems. I'm hoping that we get to test them soon and actually see how they do feel. Otherwise, we might end up getting a little bit lost in the sauce with everything that's being thrown at us. But also, it does lead to the fact that it could just be a lot more content. I do want to say thank you to Esfand for coming on the show. Thank you for Asmon. Yeah, dude. And I'm excited to see everything that does happen on your stream. And I also do want to say thank you for our sponsor who does make this all possible. Big shout out to Party. You guys can check them out right now. We have our Allcraft link. You can check out everything with Party, and it's a great functionality that actually allows you to find groups in game. And also check out Esfand. Esfand is streaming like a madman always. He streams like 20 hours every single day. Be sure to check out his streams. And also, we're going to be doing viewer call-ins in a little bit. So plenty of stuff that's going to be happening soon, and cannot wait to be in Texas with you guys.
It's going to be a lot of fucking fun. That's definitely it. Yeah, maybe in a few of these episodes, we'll actually be able to do it in real life.
Yeah,
we'll all get together. That'll be fucking awesome. But yeah, anyway, thanks a lot for coming on. I'm going to go ahead and wrap up all my stream stuff. And Rich, I'll see you on yours.
Yep, see you in a few minutes.
All right,
See you
dude.
guys,
Peace.
dude.
See ya.